Hello, friends, and welcome to the Earth Keeper Summit. What a treat that I get to spend part of my day today with my dear friend, Dr. Bruce Lipton. You know his work, you know the biology of belief, you know his groundbreaking books, you know that he's a biologist of consciousness. He knows the physical realm and the invisible worlds, and it's such a great treat to be with you, my brother Bruce.
Alberto, it is my treat because, when we hang out together and we start helping people move from where we are now in a state of chaos into a better world, how much joy I have working with you, because together we really offer such empowering messages for people at this time when they think everything's out of control, which it is, but
Yeah.
we have opportunities to take our power back.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the danger is that we slip into fear and then we get paralyzed. And there's no way you can get your power back when you are helpless, hopeless.
Well, I just want to say that this is a history story in civilization, and especially in the last few hundred years, where if you can disempower the public, then you become powerful. And it's like basically they feed us this information that makes us feel like we're out of control and life is, and then, what do we need to do? Because the moment you feel like you're a victim is the moment you're going to say, help me, whatever you tell me, I'm going to do it.
Yep.
Very interesting little story. I mean, there's a side story about COVID. I'm not going to go into COVID right now, but the side story is very important. People like us, all of us who are here online, only have power when we're in a community. If there's no community as an individual, you actually have no power at all. And it was interesting, the side story of COVID, how the whole planet was told not to be in community. Don't talk to each other, wear a mask, keep away from each other, don't socialize. And there was a period where the people on the whole planet had no more power because it was given up. And it's like time for us to know we are creators. Let's get back in the game.
Absolutely. Let me share a little story with you also relating to the loss of power. The 50% of all of the commercials, the advertising in America, I'm not sure about Europe, but in America, 50% is pharma, is drugs. But if you watch the advertising closely, and I invite you to do that, just turn on the TV sometime to watch the pharma ads. They don't tell you what the medication is good for. They just tell you that there's this amazing medication. You see healthy people jogging, running. Talk to your doctor. Not this is good for treating headache or treating insomnia. No, talk. So there, we're being sold. We're being marketed based on our fearful, the collapse of our consciousness into fear, and and it's predatory and it's happening everywhere in the planet. Whereas the medicine that we are sharing is the medicine of consciousness. It's
Well,
just
that was all that was really needed. We were already given all the power until people told us we don't have power, and then we go, "Oh, we don't," and then all of a sudden we don't have power. And it's interesting because yes, I don't watch TV anymore because of this pushing of all those drugs. You were right. Every advertisement, every break has a drug, and the idea about it, as you just said, was just feel better. Take this drug, feel better.
this
No
will
one
fix.
wants to tell the truth. In the US, with all that pharmaceutical advertising, 300,000 Americans die every year from prescription drugs. Not illegal drugs. That's a different category. And that's a small number. Maybe only 40,000 people die from illegal drugs. 300,000 people taking prescription drugs die from the drugs. And it's unfortunately because there's a belief, oh, the pharmaceutical company's here to help us. And I go, no, they're here to help themselves. It's a corporation. They're there to make money. They don't care what happens to you.
Yeah, the ideal customer for one of the pharmas is one who has to take that medication every day for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, because that's that. Hey, drug dealers only catch the bad guy on the street every now and then. They show up for a drug, but the doctors get them like, well, you didn't renew your prescription. Like, let me just help people for a second. A big selling drug are called statins, about the cholesterol in the body. There's a whole mix-up story about cholesterol in the first place. I mean, they made it an evil thing, and it's not evil at all. But what was interesting about statins is that's like a prescription for life. And I go, and how effective is it? And here's the number. Only 3 people out of 100 statin takers actually have any benefit. 97% of the people taking statins have no benefit from this drug, which they're paying for every day for the rest of their life. And then I say, yeah, but 3 people got help. 23 people got side effects that caused them greater sickness. So it helped 3 people, and 23 people got worse from taking the drug. And it's like,
Yep.
but people just say it because, very quickly, I was a professor in a medical school. Okay. I can tell you from firsthand experience, the manipulation of academia by the pharmaceutical company, people don't recognize it. We train doctors not to really understand health. We train doctors to sell prescription drugs. Oh, you have this problem. Well, let me, you need a prescription for this, or you have this prescription drug. It's always about selling drugs. What about getting healthy? What about diet? What about these things?
What
That's not.
about creating psychosomatic health? Bruce, excuse me, you just reminded me I got to take my medication. Oh, but I take it every day. Every day, yeah, I
Every
take
day,
it
multiple times during the day.
times. Yeah, the rest of my life.
Yep. Gosh, I'm addicted to water.
What's our medicine for us today? Not only the medicine of the body, the medicine of the heart, the medicine of the soul, that we can be entertaining during this time of chaos that you're describing.
Yeah, what's interesting is because people have to stop for 1 second and recognize a very simple fact of science. If a drug manufacturer makes a drug that's supposed to be, taken into our body and used, it means that we already have on our cells what are called receptors, which are like receivers of the drug. So if you take a drug, presumably your cells already have a receptor on the surface that will grab onto that drug. And I go, well, this is an interesting point. Do you think the universe gave us receptors waiting for the pharmaceutical company to give us a drug? I go, no. If we have a receptor for a drug, that means we naturally can make that drug. And the question is not to supplement the drug, is to find out, so what's the point? Why are you not making that? Rather than forget why you're not making it, just take the drug anyway. And the idea is, yes, our pharmacy in our head is so profoundly much more effective than any drug from a pharmaceutical agent. And the
Yep.
system, another thing is this, the system doesn't just release a drug to the whole body. Let's say men need estrogen. I go, oh, why? That's not for sex. And I go, no, the heart, the blood vessels in the heart require estrogen. Does that mean that a man's blood is filled with estrogen? I go, no, just at the heart. The release of estrogen is just at the heart. But when you take a pharmaceutical drug, it goes through every part of the system. And in our biology, there is no drug that runs all the way through the whole system without being targeted to a place and a time and an amount. And this is why pharmaceutical drugs are so dangerous, because, well, we made this drug for that thing. And yet, like estrogen, well, we made that for women so that they, for their reproductive cycle. And then they said, oh, when menstrual periods were gone, that we should supplement them with estrogen. Guess what? The estrogen that they were putting in was supposed to be designed for the reproductive tract, but it also systemically affected the heart. And women started getting strokes and heart attacks from estrogen replacement. And the idea they had to stop it. But what was the point? Yeah, the body uses estrogen, but it doesn't throw it into the whole body. It puts it where it wants it. And pharmaceutical drugs do not have that ability.
They don't. And, unfortunately, so many of these drugs that we flush down the toilet or go into the garbage dumps or getting into the water system, and it's contaminating our water. So we're getting unsolicited hormonal treatments. But anyway, let's shift back a bit into the sleep in consciousness that we seem to be invited to take today.
Yes.
Chaos that's happening around us. I mean, it's happening, but I don't know if you ever tried a Rubik cube.
Yeah.
The Rubik cube, in order to get to a higher level of order, you had to disorganize it a little bit first. You had to create a little bit of chaos so it was catalytic to allow you to get to a higher level of organization.
Yes. Yes. This is where we are right now. Look, you and I know, and all of us in this audience know, the world is in a crazy state. Whether you were, reading the news, surfing the web, or even just looking out your window, there's chaos all over the planet. And everyone's focusing on their little pieces of chaos. And I say, no, pull back. There's a bigger problem that all of these other little ones are connected to, but we're not talking about the bigger problem. I go, what is it? Science has recognized as a fact that to sustain the civilization, if you want to live just like we're living today, and want the planet, everybody wherever they are, just to live the way they're living today, it takes 1.6 planet Earths to provide for those people. Well, there's obviously a big issue here. There's no extra 0.6 planet Earth. And it says we have pushed the sustainability beyond what is sustainable. We cannot survive using the way we are living in the world today, because we're taking all the resources out, we're polluting the air, the water, the soil, and just our way of life, and not recognizing we are the cause of this whole problem. And I say, so the reason for the chaos is very simple. It's this. Albert Einstein said, you can't solve the problems with the same thinking that created the problem. We can't solve the problem with the culture that we have, because the culture we have is causing the problem. You can't build a sustainable world on today's foundation, because that's the corrupt culture of, the materialistic point of view is take as much as you want from the planet. No, you can't do this anymore. So why there's an important point, and I want people to understand very clearly, the chaos is a sign of breakdown. And the reason for the breakdown is you cannot build a sustainable world on today's foundation. The only way you're going to build a better world is to break the system and then start with a brand new, more in harmony with planet Earth system. So I want people to understand, when I look at the world and I see all the chaos going on, there's two parts to me. There's the science guy, Bruce, who goes, wow, this is great. Why is it great? Because it's the step needed to build the new one. You can't build it on this one. So, and then there's Bruce, the guy who lives here in the country, and goes, what's going on with the world? And the idea is, let's all start with this point. The chaos is most important. If there was no chaos, our future is very bleak. The chaos is a positive sign. Why? Because it says it's an opportunity for us to now move into the future and create that sustainable world. Alberto knows that. He walked out of the conventional world, walked into the jungle, and said, oh my God, this is a world that is completely different than back in the science lab he was working in. And so Alberto, he was the guy who walked out of one world, walked into the other world, and said, oh my God, this is how we have to do it. So Alberto has become a great teacher in my book, because he had that experience. Walk out of this environment and walk back into nature and see what that's like. And I'll tell you what, if you understand Alberto, he's a happy, happy guy. I say, why? Because he's living in harmony with nature. And I've learned to do that as well. And so while everybody around in the world looks chaotic, I seem to be walking around in this beautiful dream world. Why? It's not affecting me. Why? I'm not part of it anymore. I'm part of Alberto's world of, let's get back to nature and understand the concept of harmony. And that's what your teachings are, Alberto. And I'm so honored to be here with you because of that.
Oh, thank you, Bruce. Thank you so much. I was on an expedition together with Marcella. We went to Antarctica a few months ago to look at the glacier melting and the climate change firsthand with a group of scientists and a group of entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I brought back with me is, wait a minute, we have a garden. I took some wildflower seeds, put them. Our garden now is full of flowers, and the bees are coming, and the creatures are coming that are feeding on each other, and the hummingbirds are coming. So work on your garden wherever your garden is. Maybe it's in your kitchen. Maybe you have a little kitchen indoor garden. But enjoy the nature, connect with the beauty, find the beauty, and go. Remember that we were never kicked out of Eden. We were kicked out of that garden. It's all around us. We just have to wake up from the sleepwalking state that we've been in for all of these years and recognize.
It was interesting, because people got lost in that biblical story, the old Genesis story. And I say, well, what was relevant? And they say, well, nature was created, and then humans were added to nature. Like we were separate. Here's nature and here's humans, and we're separate entities. It's like, no, we came from the garden. We are the garden. And if you destroy the garden, we destroy ourselves because we're not exceptional. We're just part of a matrix.
Yep. And we can never talk about reconnecting with nature because we are nature. You can never stop being nature. You're natural. There's no way you can ever get disconnected. You can get disconnected in your mind, but not in your biology.
No. So I look forward to it because when you and I get together, one of the things we try to help people, empower people, is to recognize how consciousness is really creating our life experience. And that sounds like so new agey. Oh, consciousness helps us create the life. I go, no, this is the fundamental principle of the most valid science on the planet. The most valid science, and one of the most truth, is quantum physics. And principle number one is consciousness is creating our life experience. I mean, that's not new age. That's the hardest of hard science. And it says, as you change your consciousness, you change your life experience.
Yep.
And and we've been programmed, and it's time for us to get out of the program of victim and start getting back into the program. We are creators, every one of us.
I'll tell you an experiment that was done a few years back. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Before you had to get permission from patients to operate on them. There were placebo surgeries done on people that needed heart bypass surgeries. Half of the group was placebo, half of the group got the regular, grafting of a vein, and the other placebo group, just they had their chest cut open and sewn back up again, and they were told, look, you're going to have a fantastic recovery, revascularization, blood vessels will grow back. And they did. They had the same recovery as the people that had the real surgery. Now, what did the medical establishment do? They said, these surgeries are obviously useless. Instead of, the mind can create health. You can revascularize. They backed out of the consciousness, the reasonable explanation that if you are the placebo, like you say in your book, you can create revascularization in your heart without having to have your chest cracked open.
Until they tell you, like when I taught in medical school, oh, the heart does not regenerate. That was the lesson that we were programmed with. And that's a totally false lesson. Every part of the body can regenerate because we have what are called stem cells. Now, people have heard about stem cells. Let me just give you a simple insight. A body, when you look in the mirror and you see a single entity, I look at, oh, there's Bruce, one entity. I go, no, Bruce is made out of 50 trillion cells. The cells are the living entity. Bruce is by definition a community of cells. All of us are communities of cells. Well, the interesting part about the community of cells business is that once we understand the nature of the cells are living in a community, then we have to figure out, well, who's in charge of that community? Because a community has a leader. And it turns out our brain is creating the chemistry that controls our cells, whether they're healthy or not. And I go, yeah, but the brain controls the chemistry. And I say, yeah, but what chemistry should the brain be putting into the body to control it? And then here comes the big answer. Whatever picture we have in our mind, the picture is translated into complementary chemistry. So if you have a picture of love in your mind, the brain releases great chemicals, dopamine for pleasure, oxytocin to bond with your lover, growth hormone. And this is why when people fall in love, the chemistry of the body is healthy and vital. But I say, well, what if you have a picture of fear? And I go, none of those good chemicals come out. In fear, stress chemicals come out and get us ready for fight or flight. And I go, so why is this relevant? And Alberto, we're trying to tell the public a very simple fact. Everyone thinks genes are, if you have an issue, it's your genes that are all messed up. I go, only or less than 1% of disease is even connected to genes. So I said, then where's disease coming from? 90% of disease is stress, meaning if we got rid of the stress, we get rid of the healthcare crisis. But the world lives on that stress, pushing us with media every day, telling us the more you're under stress, the more you give up your power. The more you give up your power, the more those people that have power take control of us. Yep. And it's a time for a wake-up call.
And remember that the stress response is fight or flight. When you can't fight and you can't flee, then it's fight, flight, or freeze. Freeze is paralysis. Freeze is dropping into fear. Freeze is psychosomatic disease.
Yeah. It's like, so where's the whole issue of health necessary? And the idea is stop being in stress. You say, how the heck do I stop being in stress? I go, when you hear the news media and you hear the advertisements, are they selling it because they need you to be healthy and happy? I go, no, they sell us all that stuff because when we give up our power, here's a simple point. When you're a victim, you say, who can fix me? And
Yeah.
then not only who can fix me, how much will it cost to fix me? And all of a sudden you say, oh, it's the money that they're making by keeping us in a sick state, because healthcare is a corporation. If it was nonprofit the way it should be, why? It's healthcare for people. How can you make money? A simple point. If you're making money off of healthcare, that means you're charging people more than the healing you're giving them. You're charging them a price on top of healing. And I go, this is
Totally. That's what
this
the
is
shamans, the
not
shamans
right.
of old, the shamans of old live even in the Amazon today and the mountains in the Andes. They live really well if the community's healthy. If the community is sick, they're fired because they're not protecting the health of the members of the community. And
No.
today, this is what we're facing with this chaos, Bruce. When we can't fight, we can't flee. Our brain reads about the news, the war that's happening on the other side of the world, and we think the barbarians are at the village gate because that ancient brain of fight or flight cannot tell distance or time. This is
No.
PTSD. And
Oh, and they'll deliver the news right to your telephone, your computer, your television. Don't worry, you don't have to look for the news. They'll give it to you.
that's why I tune into YouTube to watch you, Bruce. To Just the news that I want to hear.
Well, I
Anyway,
tell you the same
this,
thing, Alberto, is I've disconnected from that media because I know that media is a manipulation. And you and I both come from corporations whose function was to manipulate our health. And it's time for a change on this because, first of all, once you've been programmed, you're a victim. Then you give up your power. I am a victim. I can't do anything about it. Who can? And then they'll be right at your doorstep to say, we can do it. And here's how much it's going to cost.
well, Bruce, it's, let's, to bring our program to a close, can you give us,
Oh, no, it's not time to close because we have such great.
I know, but, we're going to get fired if we go on for another 3 hours. If, what can you recommend to our viewers that we can re-empower ourselves to find our destiny in the midst of this chaos that we're in?
Well, I think it's actually trying to seek out the information that really supports us and try to sift away all that information that's trying to sell us something. And it's really hard. And basically, we've been so programmed to believe that the pharmaceutical people, the medical people, the whatever people out there, we have this belief that they're here to help us. It turns out, no, they're here for their benefit to make money. So, they give us a little service, but they charge us a big fee. I mean, here's a fact. So this is not out of school. The third leading cause of death in the United States is the medical profession. It's called iatrogenic illness. Now that was, where did that come from? The Journal of the American Medical Association, their own journal,
Yeah.
acknowledges they're the third leading cause of death. I say, well, when was that? And I say, 2000. You go, oh, that's 23 years ago. It must be better now. No, the British Medical Journal did the same research in 2016. And guess what they found? In America, the medical profession is still the third leading cause of death. If people understood that, they might stop long enough and say, is that the direction I should be going in? I go, if you're seeking health and they're the third leading cause of death, maybe that's not the direction you should be going in.
Yeah. Well, today we have, luckily, the knowledge, the wisdom with teachers like yourself and so many others that are part of the Earth Keepers program to really craft a healthy future for ourselves, for our families, for the planet. And your message is so important in this journey, Bruce. I want to thank you for being part
Oh,
of the summit and for being in my life. You're just one of
I,
those.
I want to thank you. You're the guy that left the beaten path and went into that jungle to say, how is this thing working? And come back with the messages that are vital for us to understand. You want to start to be healthy in this world, then start to live in harmony with this planet instead of coming with the concept we have dominion over the. I said, we have dominion over the planet. I said, how's that working out? I go, we're facing an extinction crisis because human behavior has undermined the web of life. And I said, so what do we need to do? And I say, exactly what Alberto just said. We have to change our knowledge base. You know, the old saying, knowledge is power. And I go, yeah, that's true. But let me make another statement. Same thing, okay? A lack of knowledge is a lack of power. And we have not been programmed with the real knowledge of how it works. We're living by misperceptions. And I go, why is that a problem? Because that misperceptions are not knowledge. They're actually disempowering. And when you start to get the messages that my dear friend Alberto, my other friends, I have so many of them, and Alberto and I worked with them all. Why? There's a source of knowledge, and this knowledge is power. And it's time for us to let go of the misperceptions that we believe that we're victims and start to own the real truth that we are co-creators, and that you have to look at your life as not an accident, but you're a participant. What have you been doing to be a participant? Now, new knowledge that we offer in the Earth Keepers is the whole idea of take your power back.
May it be so. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, my dear brother. Pleasure as always. And take your power back. Take your medicine. Reclaim your journey through this beautiful planet that we're living in. Thank you for being with the Earthkeeper Summit.